All right, welcome back. You're still watching Daybreak, and we took a break here on air, but we didn't take a break from here in the studio. I've had some things that I would not repeat on air, but we were concluding on the conversation about the talks and the discomfort expressed by the Deputy President, saying that he represents many, and Honorable Mukunji here says that indeed there are a lot of them that are of the same voice or opinion. But just a quick one. Did you pass the motion in the House? Did you support the motion?
The motion on talks? Yes, I did.
Oh.
And I'll tell you why. Because...
No, it's okay. I just wanted to hear if you did or not.
You have to give these people what they want.
I've not heard from Fred.
I don't know.
No, Senator, let's hear from Fred first. Because he has also been involved. I'll come to you, Senator, please. Fred, talk to me because... We've been making these steps.
Yes.
When there was the bipartisan talks, I remember it was either 1st or 2nd of April that the president came and told the nation that...
2nd of April.
Yes, that they have agreed that we stop the conversations about the demonstrations, and actually that stopped. There was a bit of peace. There was false starts to the bipartisan process. It failed, went back to the protests. Now came back to the National Dialogue Committee, took a bit of time to settle down. In fact, you had said that you want the conversations concluded by the end of August. We are now in the 2nd week of September, or is it the 3rd? Okay. Then you hear these voices. So are we making a movement, or just a bit of motion without movement?
Thank you, Sam. First of all, allow me to say that I have listened to what my two friends here, Lotte and my good friend from Manyata, say. And it's very interesting. But you see, the script is the same. We know it. When you listen to Honorable Gachagua, he's a man under siege. NADCO was established as a motion, a resolution in Parliament. And the two gentlemen sit in Parliament. And therefore, they are aware about its legality. Number two, Honorable Gachagua said he feared Raila. He doesn't fear Raila. He fears the talks. Why? He fears the talks because in the talks, there's an issue of establishment of state offices. An issue that came from Kenya Kwanza now has been harmonized, has NADCO issue, and specifically, the issue of Prime Cabinet Secretary. That's what he fears. Because that, should it go on and succeed, as we hope it will, then gives that office a legitimacy and functions and clear roles that are outlined in the Constitution. Honorable Gachagua seems to have a problem with that, in my view. Number two, Honorable Gachagua has picked specifically on issue number 2C, electoral justice, and to be specific, audit of the presidential election 2022. He claims that there is no constitutional provisions to perform that audit. I want to remind Honorable Gachagua today that IEBC in its function, one of them is to facilitate, number one, observation, monitoring, and evaluation of elections. But when you go into evaluation of elections, remember, they facilitate, they facilitate that. Evaluation is actually an audit. And when you do audit, the outcome is to authenticate the validity or authenticity of that result. And therefore, an auditor, when doing that evaluation, you can do on a person, organization, or a process. Election was a process. Why are they fearing the evaluation as provided for in 88.4H? Why are they fearing? Because Senator Ososia said that there's a reason. We must put aside, or rather we must dispense this issue of 2022 presidential election so that we can move forward in another election that we shall have corrected the messes of the previous election. But look, Sam, when you read the framework agreement that has been signed...
So just hold on.
...by both parties.
So when you say that IEBC is supposed to facilitate evaluation and you call evaluation audit, so which IEBC is facilitating this?
That's why we are saying, among other issues that has been presented is the reconstitution and restructuring. But that what is missing today is the commission or the commissioners. That's what
you have told me that 2C, audit of the 2022 presidential election,
correct,
is provided for in the Constitution because IEBC, one of the roles is to
facilitate evaluation.
Facilitate the observation, monitoring and evaluation of elections. Correct. So, meaning it has to be facilitated by IEBC.
Yes.
How is the National Dialogue Committee the IEBC?
Yes.
National Dialogue Committee is not IEBC. National Dialogue Committee has been established to address the issues of concern to the people of Kenya. One of the issues of concern is that election, and it has been harmonized as per the framework. Now, the National Dialogue Committee has listened, and they have also invited the views from the public, which I'm sure they're receiving. But in our issue as a party coalition, we did present that issue, which each party has a right to present. What we are saying in that audit is that why don't we look at the processes that were used to conduct that election, right from the start to the end, and then the resolutions shall be made, and people agree that these were correct, these were not wrong, and these were wrong. And if they were wrong, then how do we make corrections going forward? So it is not NADCO that is going to audit. No, and that's what Gachagua is saying. It's not NADCO. It is a forensic audit. And in our view, because IEBC shall facilitate that, we prefer an independent forensic auditor that shall do that.
So this, which is fine. The plan is okay. I'm just concerned about that point that you dispute when the Deputy President is saying that it is not constitutional. You can argue, but is it provided for in the Constitution?
My argument is very simple. My argument has been that it is
I'm not
provided.
Asking you to argue. I'm asking you to tell me.
No,
auditing the presidential election.
And I'm telling you through
is it provided for in the Constitution?
I am telling you through placing this argument on this show that it is provided for because IEBC should facilitate evaluation of elections, and presidential elections is part of the election.
So is it evaluation or is it audit?
What is audit? Sam?
No.
Evaluation is an aspect of audit to authenticate or validate a process, a person, or an organization.
And therefore,
the election was a process.
And therefore, Fred,
IEBC should do that.
Fred, between 9th and 15th of August, there are processes that are going on at the Bomas of Kenya, right? Where forms are presented and counter-checked. Would that pass for evaluation?
That would pass for evaluation, but who did it? IEBC.
No. I mean, if
yes,
it passes for evaluation,
IEBC.
Do you think that is what 884H is talking about?
I don't think so. I don't think so in my view. And that's why I said in my view, I think what we need and what we are pushing for as Azimio is an independent evaluation, independent audit.
Under what law?
The people,
independent audit, under what law? Under what provision of the Constitution?
Under the provision of 884H. That is it.
Independent, where?
That is it. That is it, Sam.
Independent audit of the election, where? Show me.
IEBC must facilitate that because that is what the law provides or requires of them. So how they do it is the question. And that's why NADCO is sitting to say, if it is the function of IEBC to facilitate evaluation, and in our view, when you are evaluating, you are actually auditing, then what do we do as a country? That resolution, that recommendation shall come from Bomas talks. That is what we are looking at. But lastly, Sam, I want to remind our good friends from Kenya Kwanza. The framework agreement that they signed, led by their leader, Honorable Kimani Ichung'wah, was such that the parties shall act in utmost good faith. That means, in addressing these issues of concern, we must go there with utmost good faith. When you hear Honorable Gachagua saying that they are asking for issue number 2C to be dropped from the issue of statement, then you know for sure that there's no good faith. But we know that the team at Bomas are committed. We know that Ichung'wah's team are committed so far. And therefore, for us, sometimes we really don't want to respond to issues of Gachagua because we are focused on addressing the issue of concern to the people. And we want to ask our friends out there, they should not do things that we call incitement or what we call hostilities to these talks, because those are hostilities. Cessation of hostilities is an interim measure that, when addressed, will help us move forward. And that's why today I said, and let me repeat it some as I finish, the talks or the dialogue committee is a product of parliament. The members of parliament are seated here. They agree that they passed that motion. So they cannot come back and say they agree with Gachagua. Gachagua is not a member of parliament. He is making political statements in rallies out there. So people should not even concentrate on what he's saying. People should concentrate on what will come from the product of parliament. And in any case, the issues have been harmonized. So if they've been harmonized and Kimani Ichung'wah's team signed, Honorable Kalonzo's team signed. So how is he going to ask again to remove that issue from the issues of statement? It is not possible.
All right.
And that is just...
All right, Fred. I want us to close this so that we can move to the next one. You had an interjection.
Yeah, I just wanted to say, all these noises about opening servers and not opening server. I think what must come out very clearly, that an electoral management system or program in any country appreciates the fact that there is usually, as part of our best practice, a process to audit the election results. That's provided for. And I think it is something that even us in Azimio, we don't have to ask for it. It should be part of the process of IEBC. And that's an international...
Beyond the review by the Supreme Court,
even
political class should come in.
Even without going through the Supreme Court, it should be part of the internal standard of IEBC. But that after every election...
They actually audit the elections. Like 2017 was audited.
No,
and a report released.
No. You see, the kind of thing they call audit is not.
You don't trust it.
Is not what...
Senator, you just said an internal process.
It does not meet international standards.
How do you know?
Remember that point.
Did you look at the audit report of 2017?
Yeah, I looked at it. In fact, we even questioned that report, because it didn't meet international standards. So what we are saying, if IEBC really has to do its constitutional
wait a minute.
role, because
Senator,
the Constitution...
do you remember receiving a series of proposed amendments under JLAC of the National Assembly by IEBC based on the review of the 2017 election?
The amendments to which act?
Several. There was the one on campaign financing. There was electoral laws themselves.
And you know what happened with campaign financing?
So what I'm asking is, do you remember such kind of products being brought to the House?
Yes, they were brought towards the tail end. And I wanted to tell you,
about time.
Election financing...
If it was brought, and it's a product of auditing the 2017 election, isn't that what you're talking about, an internal process?
No. I'm talking about the results audit.
Why do you need to...
The results...
Why do you need IEBC to audit its own results?
Yeah, it's provided for in law. If you look at the Constitution says election must be secure, must be verifiable. When we talk about verifiable, we are talking about all these processes, audit, verification, and all this.
So when should this...
That aspect of verifiable election...
Where does it happen? When?
That aspect of verifiable election happens during the entire process, from registration of voters, compilation of the register, the voting process, the counting, and even after the results have been announced.
So the essence is to ensure that you announce the right
post-result evaluation, verification. Because it's provided for in the
Constitution. What I'm asking is, when you are voted for,
yes,
results were taken from the polling station to the county.
Yes.
And the county returning officer received all these forms.
Yeah.
And your agents were there, and the agents of other political parties and other candidates, and they looked at each of those.
Yes.
In essence, that's what they are supposed to do. That is the verification of results, isn't it?
Yes.
So once you do that, anyone who is dissatisfied, they go to court. And the court, you can go up to the Supreme Court if dissatisfied. What other verification do you want IEBC to do beyond that of the results?
You see, I have mentioned there is that verification that happens within the process. But now, after the results have been announced, it is important as part of the international best practice for IEBC to go back and carry out a further verification,
which is what
of the process and of the outcome.
Which is what I'm telling you.
So what we are asking for is the verification of the outcome of presidential election, because questions have been raised.
If an election has been challenged in court,
yeah,
the highest court in the land, and an outcome given by the Supreme Court, you're auditing as IBC to do what with that?
But
it's a best practice. It's a best practice. You see, Sam,
it doesn't mean it's the end.
It's not the end. It's a best practice. And again, you remember,
Senator,
I started.
Let's be candid here.
Sam,
we are
I started.
Wait. We are constitutional democracy, right?
Yes.
So we're guided by the law.
Yes.
So the election is conducted and organized and conducted by the IEBC.
Yes.
They present their results and they say, Godfrey Osotsi is the Senator of Vihiga. If anyone is opposed to that, they go to court. So the court comes and calls IEBC, calls you, calls the complainant and say, based on what we've looked at, you're the rightful winner or you are not. So IEBC is reviewing those results to do what with that outcome after the court has pronounced itself.
Well,
guided by the Constitution.
Remember I said, with court or without court, IEBC, as part of international best practice, they are obligated to continuously carry out verification.
Audit
Even
processes, not verification of results.
No, verification is part of audit process. Number two, Sam, we must acknowledge that the Constitution provides for the right of access to information, which is not limited in terms of time.
You made that point, Senator.
You can exercise that
Senator,
right anytime.
You made that point.
Yes.
Move on to...
Let me, I want to help my good friend here. And one of the things I've realized, Sam, is Africans, we have a challenge with the election process. And the biggest reason why we have a challenge is the trust in our institutions. I want to tell you, Sam, that by 9 p.m. the day of elections, besides waiting for my results, I had already sent the president the results he got in Manyata. Simply because the process was so clear and it was very strict that immediately after the tally is closed, the presidential elections are actually counted. After counting, there is a process of uploading. And after uploading on the server, now the others will continue. It was so clear that anybody, access to information of what Senator is talking about here, was so easy that even a village, if you are somewhere in Vihiga, you could have downloaded everything in this country about those results. Kenyan's election is ranking so high. Kenyan's election process is ranking so high in Africa that some countries need to come and benchmark here. The problem is the fact that the Azimio side has actually punctured the process of the constitution of the IEBC. We are waiting to hear what they have in mind. They said Kenya Kwanza want to form the IEBC. We said they can even bring Oburu Odinga. And we are ready to listen to them so that we have an IEBC that is working, that is going to work on our boundary review and is able to actually prepare for the 2027 elections in a timely manner. We don't have time. And I'll tell you, Sam, all these things are political. The argument on election is basically something that keeps Azimio rolling. It is a political narrative that keeps them talking. And I will tell you something. And the reason why Azimio right now is talking, you hear everything is about the dialogue committee. Because that's the only thing they have. That's the only thing.
True, not true.
And the fact of the matter is,
not true.
We are going to have this conversation. If something happens, now we go back to the street. Oh, we go back to the street. Yeah. That is the modus operandi of our opposition today. And it is unfortunate.
Okay.
Very unfortunate.
I want us to transition and talk about,